Okay, this is Professor Ken, Prof Ken, it's fine. Let's review some kitchen vocabulary. Um, so let's go to the next page. Uh, First word, mug, M-U-G, is you can use for a coffee, what we call a coffee cup. So it's just something, it can be different sizes, but it's what you drink out of. Mug. Blender. Blender, you can uh, make a lot of good drinks with that, or blend items that you're going to bake, what the case might be. Blender, Blender, blender. Pot, something you would cook perhaps soup in, and that's a pot. Usually has a lid. Lid is what you take off at the top, and when you're trying to heat it up, you put the lid on to make it cook faster. Pot, P-O-T. Plate, what you eat off of. Plate, P-L-A-T-E, plate. Egg slicer. I don't think my family ever owned an egg slicer, but it will chop a boiled egg into several pieces. Egg slicer. Probably one S there too many. Um, we don't need this S here. Egg slicer. Although, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so EGG, slicer, SLICER. Spatula, or turning over hamburger meat or pancakes, something like that. Spatula, SPATULA, spatula. Coffee maker, up here in the upper left, there we are, coffee maker. Coffee, COFFEE, maker, MAKER. Colander, or simply drain. Um, Colander, COLANDER, or drain, DRAIN. Cutlery, uh, usually containing knife, fork, and spoon in America. Knife, fork, and spoon. Cutlery, CUTLERY, or silverware. Really nice cutlery is frequently made of silver, so sometimes we just call, even if it's not made of silver, we may call it silverware. SILVERWARE. Knife, KNIFE. You do not pronounce the K. No K sound. Fork, FORK. And spoon, SPOON. Food processor is functions a little bit like a blender, um, but it can do different things. It can frequently mix flour and other ingredients to prepare the dough for bread or other things that are made with dough. Food processor, FOODPROCESSOR. Grater, or sometimes just called a cheese grater. Grater, GRATER, or cheese grater, CHEESEGRATER. Grater, cheese grater. Fork, we already covered that in the picture above that. The pictures of these are in the next or in another page. The mallet and pan and potato peeler. In fact, here it is. Meat mallet. Meat mallet helps tenderize meat like a steak or something. You hit it with that, and it helps kind of, anyway, it makes it softer, makes it easier to eat and so forth. A meat mallet. Meat, M-E-A-T, mallet, M-A-L-L-E-T. Meat mallet. Pan. Pans come in lots of sizes, and depending on the shape, it may have a slightly different name, such as we will see later. A frying pan is typically a little shorter than this, maybe a little larger in circumference, and is primarily used for cooking meat. This one looks like medium size pan, so you could cook a lot of different things in it. So P-A-N, pan. Potato pillar, or these are kind of fairly sharp blades, and they will peel off the outside of a potato or the outside of a carrot. So it's not, a peeler can be used for peeling, taking the peel, the outside is called the peel, taking the peel off a potato, a carrot, or some other vegetables. Potato, P-O-T-A-T-O, peeler, P-E-E-L-E-R, potato peeler. Toaster, for toasting bread specifically, maybe some other things, but typically it's made for making toast, cooking bread to make it hot and a little bit harder on the outside. Anyway, the toaster for making toast. Toaster, T-O-A-S-T-E-R, toaster. Twirling stick. Actually, I have never used a twirling stick, but it looks like it helps, um, kind of mix things a little bit. But not, I don't know many people with a twirling stick, put it that way. Twirling stick. T-W-I-R-L-I-N-G, stick, S-T-I-C-K. By the way, you can twirl. Twirling is moving things around. So a person can twirl in dancing, or there's different ways of, you can twirl something in your hand perhaps. But to twirl is to kind of turn things around and around and around, as you see this instrument, this twirling stick can do. Wooden spoon, frequently used for cooking, especially things like soups and stews. So wooden spoon, wooden, W-O-O-D-E-N, spoon, S-P-O-O-N. This spoon is made out of wood. So wood is what you get from a tree, right? And this looks like this is also made out of wood, this twirling stick. So you can learn another word here if you don't know already. Wood is the material you get from a tree. So there's lots of wooden things. And you use wood for building houses sometimes and other things. But here we're talking about a wooden spoon. Barbecue. This looks a little old-fashioned, but barbecue, you cook typically meat. You can cook other things too, vegetables, but cooking meat, in Russian, it'd be a place to cook shashlik. So the barbecue, you usually put coals in it. You could put wood in it or something else, but something you would probably use outside in cooking meat and other things. Barbecue, B-A-R-B-E-C-U-E, barbecue. Bread basket. This is the basket made out of some type of a natural material, and that you can put the bread in it. And so together, this is the bread, this is the basket, you have a bread basket. Bread, B-R-E-A-D, basket, B-A-S-K-E-T. Champagne cooler. Uh, you can use it for other things. Put ice in this bucket. You could call this a bucket. But when being used to quickly cool something, like in this case, champagne, could be Coca-Cola, or whatever. You put a lot of ice in this bucket, and anyway, in this case, it's being used for champagne is called a champagne cooler. Is a way to get something cold quickly. Um, Notice champagne also has some words that are not pronounced. So in this case, the G is not pronounced. Champagne, Champagne, no sound from the G. Cooler, Cooler. The word cool is kind of cold, and so you can use the word cool for other purposes. Sometimes used to say how somebody who's really cool, somebody who everybody admires. So we use it as an adjective sometimes. Wow, he's cool. Chest freezer. So you just put your things you want to freeze inside this box, so to speak. And that's called a chest freezer, as opposed to perhaps a freezer on your refrigerator that you put stuff in front. You open it up and you load it with freezable items from the front. This one, the door is on the top, and you kind of pile stuff on top of each other. But you can get a lot of stuff into a chest freezer. Chest freezer, Chest, freezer, Freezer. Chest, you might recognize it from other uses. Chest is the top of your um, well, where your heart is at, where your breast is also called a chest. Breast and chest, same area of your body. Um, Frequently, we would refer to men having a chest and women having a breast, but it's the same part of your body, the upper part of your thorax. Okay, your stove. Frequently, the part that you have that you can open up from the front is your oven. So within the oven, you can cook things like bread and pizza and other things as well. Some pre-made items from the store you can throw in there and cook it from the front. Pie, things like that, you can cook within the oven. But overall, we call it a stove. This one looks like it's a gas stove to me. And so on the top, you would use a pan to cook whatever you want to cook, soup, steak, whatever that's being cooked on top. You can also cook steak, roast, and other meat inside the oven. This is a cup, but we sometimes comes with a little plate, and then it's a cup and saucer. Previously, we talked about a mug. So the cup and a mug are very, very similar. And so if you have a saucer, a little plate, what's on top of it is usually called a cup. You have a cup and saucer. Cup and saucer. By the way, back on the stove, Stove. Cup and saucer, Cup, and A-N-D, saucer. Saucer, small plate on which you would put your cup. Deep fryer, not used as much anymore. You'd put oil in the fryer. In this case, they're cooking apparently French fries. And so they put the French fries in the oil and it cooks the French fries, the cut potatoes. It looks very similar, I note down here, it looks very similar to what I've referred to in class as a crock pot. A crock pot you can put, is usually a little bigger than this, but some are this small. And you can put a roast in there and cook it for 4 hours, and it'll very slowly cook a roast, make it nice and tender. Frequently with a little bit bigger one, uh, maybe a roast and potatoes and carrots all cooking at the same time. But this is a deep fryer with oil in this, cooking things like French fries, but it would look similar, but it would not contain oil if you were using if it were a crock pot. Then it heats up, but it takes a long time to cook stuff, but on purpose because you want to go to the store, you want to go to church or whatever, and you leave your roast and other things cooking in a crock pot that looks like this. But there's no, you might want to put some liquid in the interior, but you're not putting a lot of oil in it like you would for a deep fryer, but you might put a little oil if you're going to leave it for 4 hours cooking a steak or a roast. So this is a deep fryer, but I've referred in class to a crock pot. They look similar, especially for a small crock pot. Sometimes a crock pot is not shaped round, and it's a little bigger to contain more food in it as you cook. Deep fryer, DEEP, fryer, FRYER. An automatic dishwasher that you just put the plates in and turn it on, and water comes inside this and drains on its own. Um, Especially with countries like in America and Great Britain and stuff, most people have an automatic dishwasher. My wife is from Kazakhstan. She uses it just like a cabinet. She washes the dishes herself, then she puts it in the dishwasher just to dry, whatever. Okay, frying pan. This is a little bit not as deep, you might say, as some other pans. Has a nice long handle. This on this frying pan, you might cook pancakes, but you might also cook a steak on top of the stove or something like that. Eggs, bacon, eggs, things like that. Use your spatula to turn things over so it doesn't burn on one side. But this being a little bit shorter, a little bit bigger, wider, bigger in circumference, how big around it is. Again, would be cooking hamburgers, cooking eggs, cooking steaks, etc. Funnel, used both in the kitchen and outside. I use this more when I'm working on my car to put oil into the car, something like that, in my machina and brushing. So I have one of these in my car to put things, put in liquids and stuff where it's difficult to get to and around the motor. But some people use the funnel for things in the kitchen as well. Funnel, Funnel. It can also be used as a verb to funnel. So I funneled the oil into the car, whatever. Glass. So this is a nice looking glass. So it's um, kind of might be used more for special occasions because it's kind of easy to break. And so we may not use it every day, but for celebrations, it's something that if you had champagne, you might put your champagne in a nice glass like this. But also, obviously, it would serve well for Coca-Cola or root beer or other things. So, in the simplest form, it's just called a glass. Of course, other things you drink out of that are glasses are shorter. They're not this fancy, but if it's made out of glass, it can be called a glass. Typically, even though a cup is made out of glass, just its shape would tell you if you're a native English speaker, that's a cup. That's not a glass, even though it is made out of glass. Grater, we've already talked about grater. And it can certainly grate. Also, to grate is the verb. You can grate things other than cheese, but even if somebody might refer to it as a cheese grater, even if you're planning to grate a carrot and cut the carrot into smaller strands, pieces. Grater, Grater. Okay, so um, that's some vocabulary for your that you might use in the kitchen, and we'll be posting some more vocabulary later.